Hi everybody, I'm going to do a little talk today about mixing colors with children. When I was a new teacher, I loved to just put out paint for kids to explore with, and I was definitely a proponent of the complementary approach. So often I was in a hurry, so I'd just go grab a couple colors from the closet, whatever I could grab, and put them out for the kids and just let them paint with them. And that was fun and lovely, and often I would pick two colors that didn't work together well, and I'd always come up with brown. And there's nothing wrong with brown, but when children always mix two paint colors together and get brown, they understand that that's what happens when you mix colors. So if we're a little more intentional with our use of color, we might call this a little bit more of the cognitive approach. We can really help children start to understand what happens when we mix colors. So for younger children, when I put out activities for painting, typically I'll just choose two of the three primary colors. So the three primary colors, of course, are yellow, blue, and red. And so again, if I put all three of these colors out all the time, children are going to end up eventually with brown on their paper, and they may not always have the intermediate colors that show them how they got there. So if I were going to do a painting activity for toddlers or preschoolers, for toddlers I might actually just use one color depending on what my goal is, but for preschoolers I probably would choose two at a time. Maybe have, if I'm going to do the activity multiple days, maybe one day I'd have red and blue, and then the next day I'd have blue and yellow and take away the red. And so these, by giving them two colors at a time, they get to practice and experiment over and over again, and they learn by having that exciting experience over and over again that when I mix blue and yellow I get green, and when I mix blue and red I get purple, and my red and yellow make orange, and they get to experience this over and over again. And that's what really helps them to get the idea of how colors mix much better than if we just tell them these things, right? They have to learn by doing. So for older children, we can actually offer more of a color experience by giving them all three colors. And so if they already know what those colors are going to combine into, they can make some choices about that. And for much older children, I would say, I'm talking about like older preschoolers, having all three colors. It depends on your children, and of course, and how much experience they have. But also with more of elementary age children, we can add in the black and the white, and then they can mix a huge variety of colors, certainly all the colors in the color wheel, and then all the tints and shades that they want to also. So we're going to look at some different ways to present this to children if we're going to offer 3 or 5 colors. So for most of the painting activities that we do, we're just going to use tempera paint, which is a really good all-around kind of poster paint for children. It doesn't have any particular special qualities. It's just a thick, opaque paint. And here's one brand, the Colorations brand, that I have that I'm using at home, the white and the black. But you know, there are good brands of paint and there are bad brands of paint, and I would say that Colorations, in my experience, is an acceptable brand. I typically, for the college, I buy Crayola or Sargent, because they just have a lot better color, and they make a better end product. So when we're gonna let children mix colors, we want to have a place for them to mix those colors before they put them on the paper. And many companies make these paint palettes. I obviously have a lot of these type of paint palettes. So you can present color by putting, you know, a red here, a yellow here, a blue here, and then let the children mix in the in-between colors, which is what these are made for artists. I like to use simpler things for children. You know, these are kind of fun, but they don't mix a lot of paint. So this is just a plexiglass piece. I think it came out of like a photo frame or the top of a box of something. So just putting some colors on here or putting them in one of these palettes and then letting them mix on there, that works just fine. And then another great setup to really kind of focus on the mixing of colors is something like this. This is just a white plastic tray for using for activities, and if we present it like this, then the children can choose their colors, they can mix them here, and then they can use them to paint on their paper, which would be here. So for me, the aesthetics are very important, but also I like to recycle things. So here's my water container today. It's just an old gelato container. I really like that gelato comes in these fancy containers. It gives me a good reason to buy gelato if I needed one of those. A clear container is always nice for when we're looking at color, because children can see the colors really well, and they're always sort of present for them. So even in this case, when we're using color and then washing our brush, then they get the experience of color in the water too. And this is really nice when we use pan watercolors too, to have a nice clear container for children. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in our paint section. So for a setup like this, we can just use the brushes. This is probably easiest for children. And clean between colors, and then add color here and do our mixing on the tray like this. Sometimes, like for Waldorf, often when they're doing colors, they provide a rag on the side here, so instead of making our colors all watery, that before we stick the brush in the next color, we can dab it off here, and you can encourage children to do that or demonstrate for them. Another possibility would be to use just even some simple plastic spoons. I'm using these because I have them in my studio for other purposes. They're like rubber spatulas for the kitchen, but we could provide these with each color, and then children could have the opportunity to take the color out of containers with a scoop or a spoon, and then just mix on the tray with their paint. So that's another idea. If we make it too complex for children, then it's going to be hard. It's going to be frustrating for them. So I would say that the paintbrush, at least to start, is a great opportunity for them, and then they can use their paint to paint on their paper once they have the colors that they want. Okay, so this is 5-color mixing, and you could do simple 3-color mixing, or again, for younger children, you probably just want to have 2 colors, and usually when we do that, there's another purpose to the activity. For example, if we were doing marble painting, we had 2 different colors for the marbles to dip into, but they're still getting that opportunity to see over and over again what happens when I put 2 colors together.